Oke, baik. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat pagi adik-adik, selamat siang, selamat malam. Um, jadi hari ini, today's material is about adjective. This is the third parts of speech that you learn for this semester. At the beginning, you learn about nouns and then verbs, and today it's about adjectives. So what is adjective? Adjectives has function to modify nouns. Modify means here giving additional description or explanation or quality to the nouns. Okay, so it says here adjectives are words that modify nouns by giving more information about them. Okay, so we know that sorry, a noun can be a person, place, things, or ideas. For example, teacher, city, book, happiness, and an adjective can tell can give more can tell more information, about the noun. Okay, so for example, you say a girl, you can say what kind of girl she is. You can say beautiful girl, smart girl, friendly girl. Okay, so that's the function of adjective. So you give more quality, more explanation, and more information about the noun that you use in a sentence. So how adjectives modify now? So it describes qualities. Okay, so it gives additional qualities, whether it's about the color, the height, the emotion, or the physics, something like that. So you can say it's not only a car, but you can say um, information about the color. So you can say a red car, yellow car, or black car. And for example, heights about building. I can say it's tall building, it's 5 stories building, but here adjective gives the qualities. Next one is specify quantity of numbers. So, so adjective can give can give information about a number: three, many, little, or show possession in terms of or pronouns, my, their, his. That's why if you still remember the lesson about pronoun, you will know that possessive pronoun there is possessive pronoun and there is adjective pronoun. Adjective possessive pronoun. I forget what that was. Yeah, there is one thing it says about adjective possessive pronoun, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sorry, but you can recheck your material about pronoun, but it says that the word pronoun like my, their, his is different from pronouns mine, theirs, hers, because for my it functions as an adjective, so it needs noun after that. Okay, or it can be differentiate or identity. So this that the first chapter on what tradition. So the placement of adjectives. So this is very important for you, especially because you are going to use this in writing, not only in grammar, because adding adjective to a noun, it will form what we call noun phrase. And I think I've given you about phrases in writing class. So knowing about the placement, it's necessary. So you can put the adjective before noun. This is the very common place where you put noun when you want to describe this is a very common place for adjective when you want to use it to describe a noun. So for example, she bought a new dress. So we have a noun phrase here, a new dress. Yes, I can see it here. This is a new dress, and the noun is dress. The adjective comes before the noun. Sorry, it's noun, and the new comes before the noun. Okay, or it becomes after linking verbs. So the next place is after linking verb. Linking verb is a verb that has strongly related to five senses. I think you will also learn about this one on verbs last week. So you can revisit the video about that to help you remind what is linking verb. I think I've given you a tip to differentiate between linking verb and other types of verb. So if you can change the verb into, you can substitute the verb with to be, is, are, and the meaning of the sentence doesn't change, that it's a linking verb. Okay. If we use adjective with linking verbs, or mostly you will use that adjective after the linking verb. Okay, so for example, the dress is beautiful. In here, the linking verb is the be, and you don't have any other action verb after that, so you can use adjective to give more information about the dress. So what kind of dress? It's a beautiful dress. Okay. Um, Okay, next, degrees of adjective. So adjectives don't just describe nouns. They can also show different levels of comparison. This is called the degree of adjectives. And there are three main degrees. Degree of comparison, I think you've heard this before. You've heard this before when you were in high school. It's like comparing. So one of the characteristic of adjectives is they can be compared. So let me give you example in in how to say it, in bahasa Indonesia. If you say batu, kalau kamu bilang batu, kalian nggak bisa bilang mengatakan batu lebih batu paling batu gitu ya. Kecuali kamu mengatakan kepala batu, oke. Tapi kalau mengatakan batu, kalian tidak bisa compare dia karena kenapa? Batu bukan adjective, it's a noun. Yang bisa kamu lakukan dengan batu adalah menghitung dia. Ya, satu batu, dua batu, tiga batu. But for adjective, you need if you if you can compare, bisa dibandingkan, maka itu adalah ciri-ciri, salah satu ciri khasnya dari adjective. Jadi kayak misalnya pintar, dia pintar, yang itu lebih pintar, yang di sana sangat pintar. So the word pintar itu yang bisa di compare. Yang ini disebut dengan degree of adjectives. So the first degree is called positive degree. Positive degree is the basic form of adjective. Okay, you use that normally in everyday conversation or communication. You say beautiful dress, friendly friend, rich man. Yeah, that's just the statement. So you describe a noun without comparing it to anything. The second degree is called comparative. So in comparative degree, you have to remember that the things that you compare are only two. Okay, so you just compare A and B, not A, B, and C. Okay, so you just compare two nouns, and then mostly you will add er, suffix er, for short adjectives. For example, short, shorter, young, younger, old, older. But if it has longer syllable itu kusuku kata ya. Then you tend to use more or less. So you say expensive is kind of longer than old. So you don't say expensiver, but you say more expensive. Or say interesting. Interesting is, of course, has more syllable than like young. So you don't say interestinger, but you say more interesting. Okay. I think you can find the rule for this comparative degree outside this video. Silakan dicari ya, for to help you understand more. The last degree is called superlative. Super means the best, like it's a super one. Like in superlative degree, you don't compare just two things, two nouns, but you compare more than two. So you can compare A, B, and C, and then you will say that among these three, A, B, C, this one is is the best, the highest, the tallest, sorry, the most beautiful, the smartest. So it happens, superlative degree, it happens more than two nouns. Yeah. And often formed by adding est. So make sure you know the differences between comparative and superlative. In comparative, you just use er, but in superlative, you use est. Okay. Like for the shortest adjective, like old, young, uh, cold, hot. Yeah, so those are short adjective because you just have one syllable. But if you have more syllables in the adjective, then you use most. You say most interesting, most beautiful, most hardworking person. So that's it. Okay, that's degree of adjective. The third thing you need to know about adjective is there is what we call coordinate adjective. Coordinate adjectives are two or more adjectives that equally modify the same noun. You say equally. Equal means sama, yeah. They are equal of importance. So you can say You can put and between them or change the order without changing the meaning. They are normally separated by a comma in writing. If you're still confused, let me give you an example. So, for example, it was long, boring lecture. You can say boring, long lecture or long and boring lecture. So you can use a comma, you can use an and if you change the position between long and boring, there will be no change in the meaning of the sentence. So that's what you call coordinate adjectives. Or, for example, the third one, she wore a bright, colorful dress. Bright and colorful bright and colorful dress also works. You don't really need to put a comma. Perhaps you feel like using comma here is not something familiar to you, but yeah, it happens in writing. You can use that. Although maybe perhaps you are how to say you are more familiar by using noun. Okay, so we took a slow, careful walk through the museum. So we can say we took a careful, slow walk through the museum, or you can say a slow and careful walk through the museum. So that's what we call coordinate conjunction. Now, how to test if the adjectives are coordinate? So you can ask these two questions. You can say, uh, if you can I put and conjunction and between the adjectives, like for example long and boring lecture. If we can say if adding and there doesn't change the meaning, then it means they are coordinated. They coordinate adjectives. Or can I switch the order without changing meaning, like boring long lecture? If it's similar, if I say long boring lecture, then they are gonna coordinate adjectives. Okay. When then I cannot use coordinate adjectives. So sometimes adjectives don't have equal weight. One adjective is more closely tied to the noun. In that case, no comma is used. So for example, he wore a bright yellow shirt. In this sentence, we have bright and yellow as the adjective, right? However, you don't use a comma. Why? Because the word bright is not actually describe about the shirt. It doesn't describe the shirt, but it describes the yellow, right? Like what is written on the brackets, if you see, not bright yellow shirt because yellow directly describes the shirt and bright describes the type of the yellow. So you can say dark yellow, bright yellow, or you can say how to say soft yellow, maybe perhaps there are some adjective that can describe the yellow types of yellow. So in here you don't use the comma because bright doesn't how to say it doesn't modify the noun. It doesn't talk about the shirt. It talks about the yellow. So bright in here is more closely related to yellow. So you cannot change the order. You cannot say he wore a yellow bright shirt because the meaning will be different. Okay. Or let's see the second example. We visited the famous American Museum. Famous American Museum. So the noun phrase is the famous American Museum. The noun is the museum, and we have two adjectives in here. We have famous and we have American, right? Um, in here, the American explain about the museum. So in the museum, you can find everything, every information about America. That's why it's called American Museum, right? But this famous, okay, um, most describe about this American thing. Okay, so it's famous American museum. So in here you don't say comma like this one, okay? Because if we add and in here, the meaning will be different. The famous and American museum, so it will be different. So in this second sentence, it's not coordinate adjectives. Okay. Um, Perhaps you can also find more about how to say types of adjectives ya. Kalau saya tidak salah ada yang disebut or they say let's say you can type find more information about adjectives in terms of the order. You can find order of adjectives. Cari aja urutan adjektif dalam kalimat itu di Google, silakan cari lebih jauh ya. Order of adjectives. Okay. Now it's noun as adjective. Yes, so if you still remember our lesson about phrases, I think I have mentioned that there are some words that can modify nouns. Most of them are adjectives, of course, but there are other modifiers, and one of them is noun. So noun can be used to explain another noun. It's called attributive noun. Okay, sometimes a noun is used before a noun to describe it. It functions like an adjective but stays in noun form. So this noun is still a noun. So you don't change it by adding affix. So, for example, like the word beauty, you don't use beauty girl, but you say beautiful girl. You change the noun beauty to an adjective beautiful to use as an adjective. But here, attributive noun is different. So you use it as a noun, but then the position and the function is like adjectives. So, for example, you say chicken soup. It means about there is chicken, right? So chicken is not adjective; it's a noun. But then you use it to describe about the types of the soup. Okay, car keys, callback, stonewall, history book. Mostly in here, this attributive noun formed not actually a phrase, but more about compound. Ya, lebih membentuk compound words. Nanti kalau belajar morphology, you will learn about compound. Okay, so that's no adjective. Um, so no plural for the first noun. Chicken soup, people's problem, people problem. Okay, no possessive verb. Let's say while adjective is a noun ya, kebalikannya nih. Jadi tadi kan noun yang function as an adjective, similar as an adjective, and here there is also adjective that can function as a noun. Okay, so some adjectives are used as nouns to refer to a group of people or abstract ideas. So you say the rich, you don't say rich people, you can just say the rich. While you know that rich is an adjective because you can compare. Ya, bisa di-compare kan. Pak, dia kaya, yang itu lebih kaya, yang sana paling kaya gitu. Jadi kaya, rich is one adjective, but then you can use it as a noun. Yeah, so you say the rich should help the poor. So you also have the word poor. So poor in here is also adjective actually, but then you can use that as a noun. So you say the rich here is the rich people and the poor is the poor people. Or you can say the government must support the unemployed, or we must care for the sick. Bukan sickness ya kan, karena sick di sini refer to the group of people who are sick. Okay. To use adjective as a noun, you have to add the. Okay, and because it referred to a group of people, then you treat it as a plural noun. So you say, how to say, the sick need help. Okay, if I make a sentence, the sick need help, which means that group of people who are sick there need help. Okay, so that's what it means on the point, treat it as plural noun. So you don't say the sick needs treatment, no, but the sick need treatment. Okay, because again, the sick in here not doesn't refer to only one person, but it refers to a group of people, which means there were more than one people there. So it's treated as a plural. Okay. Now maybe perhaps one thing that can be tricky is when you want to use noun as an adjective. A noun modifier or attributive noun is often used when we want to describe the type, purpose, origin, or material of something. It's not about the quality, which is what adjective usually describe, but about category or function. So you say, let me give you three examples: historical book and history book. Okay, if you say history book, history there is a noun. Okay, so history book, it's noun plus noun. So history book is about a book about history, not old book, but the subject is history. So it's history book. It's the book you use to learn history. Okay, sorry. So noun then there is the history there is a noun. Compare it with historical book. Historical book, it's what a book from history or related to history. Okay, use it. You used historical book when we want to emphasize something old or connected to history, not necessarily the subject. Okay. So if you're talking about the topic, use history book. But if you're talking about the age period, about yeah, about the age or the period, about the book, yeah, use historical book. So it's kind of tricky. You need to ini materinya harus dipahami baik-baik ya. Jadi bukan ini mungkin memang agak tricky sekarang, but I believe if you practice quite a lot, I hope you can differentiate later when you want to use it in a phrase. So for example, another example, gold goblet, golden goblet, or say gold bracelet or wooden floor. Okay, if you say gold goblet or gold bracelet, gelangnya. Gold there referred to the material. Okay, you don't say golden. So you say gold because it talks about the real gold. So that cup is made of gold. But if you say golden, okay, golden goblets, the golden derived from the word gold. Memang sama-sama dari gold ya. But then it may not purely from gold. It might be gold colored, shiny, or it can be figurative language. Yeah, like comparison, for example, or metaphor, not necessarily made of gold. So if you want to refer that, you want to say that, emphasize that, this bracelet, this necklace, this ring is made of gold. Better use gold ring, gold bracelet, gold goblet. Because if you say golden, there are a lot of other than the material that can people interpret, that can be interpreted, yeah, differently. Jadi itu bedanya ya ketika dia sebagai noun attributive sama adjective. Hmm, sama ya, berulang aja ya. Oke. Nah, kapan sih menggunakan adjective? Nah, ini harusnya ini slide-nya berurat ya, sorry. Jadi di sini untuk materi yang tadi, ya adjective dipakai sebagai noun ya. Jadi adjective sebagai noun itu bisa dipakai when you want to refer to a group of people, but remember to use the. Okay, so the rich, the poor, the elderly, the the unemployed, or you want to refer to abstract ideas. Bisa, saya kayak gini. Sometimes adjectives are used to talk about a general quality or idea of an uncountable. So, for example, she believes in the good in people. So you don't say I believe the goodness in people. Sometimes you just say I believe the good that in people. Itu bisa. Yeah. Atau he couldn't tell the difference between right and wrong. Remember that between is a preposition and preposition is followed by noun, right? But in here you use right and wrong, which are adjectives. Itu bisa. The unknown can be frightening. The unknown, verb 3, participle form, it can function as a verb and it can function as well as an adjective. So in here, the unknown is an adjective, but then you put the before that and it becomes, it functions like a noun. It becomes the subject of the sentence. Okay. The unknown can be frightening. Or to refer to things in general. In some cases, we refer to objects of groups using adjectives, but this is rarer and more literary. The beautiful in art is often hard to define. The beautiful in art. Beautiful, we know beautiful is an adjective. The noun of beautiful is actually beauty. So normally for the grammar, it can be the beauty in art, right? But then in some cases, okay, it can say the beautiful in art. It becomes something literary, kayak sastrawan gitu, bahasanya dikasih indah-indah. Okay, so what you need to know about this adjective function as a noun, if the adjective replaces a group of people, use it as plural. If the adjective replaced an idea, state, or thing, mostly you will treat it as a singular. And not all adjective can be treated as a noun. No, tidak banyak, ya. Tidak semua, tidak bilang kata tidak semua adjective lah bisa dipakai untuk noun. Not all. But if it refers to a group of people, concept, idea, it may be used. I think that's all for the adjective. If you feel confused or there is still some points that you are confused or you find not clear during from a presentation or from the video, from the slide, you can find first outside. You can search on Google. You can find any websites that can give you enlightenment about adjectives. And if you still find it difficult, take notes and you can bring the question to the classroom. I will discuss about that tomorrow on Tuesday. Okay, that's all for today. Thank you so much, and uh, yeah, that's all. Happy learning. Selamat belajar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening.